Hey guys, this is Rise, and I'm here with Klazart, the Godfather himself, bringing you some more OSL commentaries. We've been throwing them at you left and right. MSL in the left hand, OSL in the right hand, and well, I guess you're getting the right hand today because we got some more OSL, and we got a big name game on top of it all. Stork versus Fantasy. That's right, we just watched Fantasy versus who was it? Bisu in the MSL, I guess. I can't even keep them straight anymore. Maybe it was the OSL. Doesn't matter. And now we're going to actually watch him against another top Protoss player, Stork. And do you think he'll fare better? I don't know. But Klazart, I'm sure you have some insight onto this.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to this game of StarCraft because these two guys do have a history. They did face off in, I believe, the MSL finals, or was it the OSL finals? Sorry, it was the OSL finals, I believe, last season. And it was a very, very closely fought affair there. So both of these guys know each other's game. They've played each other before at the highest level, and they've got slightly similar shaped glasses as well. So that always counts for something, I guess. But yeah, I think Stork, interestingly enough, hasn't played any StarCraft for the last week or so. He hasn't been playing any in the Pro League, so he's been properly preparing for this. And I've over time, I've developed a lot of respect for Stork. He was always the guy that I felt sorry for, who always fell at the last hurdle, who made it, he was getting a reputation as a silver, the new silver champion, the new silver carrier after yellow. But he proved us all wrong by finally winning something, and I think people had made up their mind, certainly I had, that he was not going to be championship material. But he is. He's a really, really good player. He's a very solid player. Fantasy, Boxer's protege. What else can I say about him? Hugely creative, plays some great StarCraft, but sometimes lets himself down, and hopefully he will produce a good game of StarCraft here against Stork. And I guess I don't really mind who wins as long as it's a good game, and I think that's what we're going to get. And it looks like we've got Stork at the 1 o'clock position in blue, and Fantasy at the 6:30 or at the 5:30 position in what looks like teal. And this is Outsider. It is a 3-player map, and I'm looking forward to a good game of StarCraft.
Well, one thing that I like to think about Fantasy, or not that I like to think, but I tend to think, is the fact that he's very creative, yes, but he's one of those guys that, in my mind, always follows a game plan, a very specific game plan, and quite possibly a very creative game plan. However, I've never felt that he was particularly good at adapting to what other players may throw at him as a response to his creative play. And when he follows that road path, he does great. He has a plan, he executes that plan, he executes it beautifully, and he can win matches. But if he doesn't, well, he gets silver, and that's what he's gotten in the past because of that, because he wasn't able to adapt to play from other players. And it's funny that he's playing against Stork, who used to be the previous majority silver holder player that we have out in the OSL and the MSL finals all the time, him and Jangdi, I guess. But either way, maybe Fantasy can prove me wrong. Maybe he's been working on his adaptation of play. Certainly, when you're at this level, you need to be able to adapt to whatever is thrown at you. That is a ridiculous sign. That is a really cool drawing of a Marine, a Firebat, and a Medic, I think, anyway. That's actually pretty good. Who do you think that is?
Pretty hot.
It says Kim, so I guess we know who it is. But that was a ridiculous drawing either way. So, I don't know. Those are my predictions, which I didn't give you any. I'm going to actually favor Stork here, because Stork I have felt is playing great. That's my prediction. So, Klazart, do you think that Fantasy can execute a plan on this map to win and move to the next level?
Yeah, I think actually, again, now a lot of people have given me stick for this. I've never really believed that Stork is the most creative player out there. I think he's a very, very solid and consistent player, and he's able to adapt to most situations, and he's good at that. And occasionally, yes, he does do things that are different and imaginative and imaginative, but he's never, to me, been, I don't know, for me, he's always, oh my god,
Boobs.
he's always been a little bit under orange ones too, a little bit under Bisu's shadow, really, because if Stork is kind of he's had the misfortune of having his dominance and prominence be in the same era as that of someone who is a genius at what they do, which is Bisu, and it's kind of like being a musician at the time of Mozart. You just cannot compete, and nothing you write will ever be as good as what he did, or or Beethoven, and unfortunately that's been the case for Stork. But he is an incredible player in his own right. Fantasy with only the one SCV, so it looks like we are seeing an expansion, mining gas. So we are seeing an expansion from Fantasy after having walled off, and Stork hasn't been able to get that scout in. So Fantasy is now looking to fast expand, sending a Marine to scout along with that SCV. That SCV is going to get past that initial Zealot. But yeah, I would favor Fantasy because I think that Stork isn't going to really. I mean, Stork will play well against Fantasy's build, but I don't think Stork is going to surprise him and really throw him off his game plan, which is what I think is the best way of beating Fantasy, is to make him play to your tune, and that's what Bisu accomplished yesterday.
He accomplished that in spectacular fashion, actually. I mean, it was ridiculous. I gotta say, it was pretty much just rape against his teammate. And, you know, a lot of people actually asked if Fantasy threw that match, which, it's funny that we've been hearing that a lot lately, which is not typically something we hear in the level of professional StarCraft, you know, in this league setting especially. But, and I guess maybe because they were teammates or whatever, but I'm still a little surprised about it. Anyway, now on to this match where nobody is hopefully throwing anything. Stork is going for an early harassment, but it looks like Fantasy is going to be very able to defend this. It's not going to be much of an issue at all, actually. He's making a tank. He's got a couple of SCVs to repair, and so Stork is just going to force him to spend some minerals to repair the buildings, and really that's about it. But, you know, more importantly is what is the further build that we're going to see from these players. And now we are seeing Robotics Facility coming from Stork, so maybe we're going to see some Reaver. A lot of players have been going for the quick shuttle / DT drops, which is actually what was used against Fantasy last by Bisu. And I'll be curious to see if Stork goes that. But Stork, in my opinion, has always just been a very big, very solid Reaver player. You know, he's always got that play where he can just throw out some Reavers and do a ton of damage with them. He's got some of the best Reaver micro, I think, in the entire league, which is nothing to say, you know, is too crazy considering the fact that he's a top Protoss player to begin with. But either way, that's kind of what I'm expecting from him. It looks like Fantasy is content to just get an expansion up and play that game. And oh, look at that! Stork actually trying to sneak a Dragoon through. I actually didn't know you could do that. And it doesn't look like he's able to quite yet. We'll have to see if he's able to get that through, though. And Fantasy, in the meantime, is getting that typical starport that we've been seeing a lot of Terran players do to fight against that early Reaver harass. And Stork having a lot of trouble trying to get that Goon through. I don't know if he's going to be able to.
Yeah, I think he's going to probably have to give up on that. He's certainly persistent, if nothing else. And it looks like he's going to have one more try here. Will he sneak it through this time? No, he won't. But actually, that starport might prove quite serendipitous for Fantasy. And he does this time get it through with a pylon. He uses a pylon to assist him, and this time manages to get the Goon through, and that's going to be able to harass Fantasy's forces. But I'm sure Fantasy will just bring a siege tank around and do that. And meanwhile, Fantasy pushing out with the siege tanks and Marines, trying to put a little bit of pressure on Stork, but he's going to be forced to pull at least one of those siege tanks back to deal with that Dragoon. And now, but the problem for Fantasy is he doesn't know it's just one Dragoon. He doesn't know that Stork hasn't built a gateway there or something, and that would be something that would be concerning him. Stork, meanwhile, has got his second gateway up. He's got Dragoons. We will be seeing Reavers. I don't think we'll be seeing DTs from Stork anytime soon. That one Dragoon still there, continuing to harass Fantasy. Siege tank now coming in. That should get rid of it and clear it out with the superior range, obviously, against the Dragoon. So Fantasy back to mining there. And Stork is just doing these kind of little things to equalize the fact that Fantasy did take that quick expand. Fantasy is straight away put the control tower down as well. I'm not sure if he produced a Wraith. Now the Observer chasing Fantasy's units back. Observer following Fantasy's units back to his main. But I'm not sure if Fantasy's produced a Wraith straight away before getting that. And he's got his dropship out already. So Fantasy straight away with the dropship. And Outsider is a map that is really made for dropship play and dropship heaven, because Stork has taken his Expo as well, his protecting Expo min only, and if Fantasy can get a couple of drops behind it, he could do a lot of harass. Robotics support bay up meanwhile for Stork. His Dragoons are out, they're out of position. Fantasy dropping a couple of Vultures in, and these Vultures might be able to do a good amount of economic damage, but that is blocked. I actually didn't realize that. I'm sorry. I saw that, but I didn't realize that those buildings were actually placed to block the ramp. So Fantasy's drop nullified by Stork, thinking in a little bit ahead, and he's basically nullified Fantasy's dropship. That's brilliant, at least his initial dropship, and that's quite brilliant by Stork. Now Stork with his shuttle heading towards Fantasy's base. And I think we might have lost Rise here, guys, at 9 minutes and 27 seconds.
Oh, no, I'm back. You got me?
Alright.
Sorry,
gotcha.
I had some vent lag. Anyway, it looks like some good harassment from those vultures, but Stork going to be able to close that out before any more damage is done. And it looks like at the same time he's stalled with his own shuttle harassment. I don't even know if there's anything in that dropship. I didn't see a Reaver produce. I didn't see him use it. Maybe he was using it to ferry some troops, and he's actually heading back now to his group of Dragoons, and I don't know what's going on right now actually with Stork, and I can actually hear the crowd going like, oh, like something went on here, and I don't know if it's because he had no Reaver or what, but they're clapping about something. And yeah, now we have a Wraith out on the field from Fantasy as well, so he is going to be able to defend against that shuttle harassment pretty easily. So Stork, although he was doing a really good job of throwing Fantasy off and what I thought was a very clever block by the buildings he set up with some great foresight, you know, he's just now all of a sudden I feel like he's falling behind. I don't know why. Fantasy for once in this game is actually making units, and we have 2 shuttles out on the field, so maybe we're just going to see some general ground unit dropship play, which isn't typical by any means, but could definitely be worthwhile and effective.
That could be very effective because Fantasy has already taken his next expansion, taken his natural expo now, and his forces are concentrating on defending there, and he is a little bit vulnerable in this, even though he does have that one Wraith. The Wraith is going to see those shuttles, and it's going to chase at least one of them. It gets a couple of shots off, and Fantasy will have a couple of seconds extra to react. That Wraith is going to get picked off by the Dragoons. I think the Wraith got taken down. There's a Reaver supported by 3 Dragoons there. The Wraith is forced away. The SCVs are forced away, and if Stork has done some good harass there, but actually I'm not sure he killed too many SCVs because the Wraith absorbed most of the hits. There was one Reaver shot that went off, and I'm not sure it took out any SCVs. Meanwhile, Fantasy bring the Siege Tanks in. First Siege Tank takes a shot, second Siege Tank fires, and the Wraith now is not able to do anything. This is brilliant adaptation to Fantasy's build by Stork, and I guess I'm going to eat my words right now, because what Stork is doing is he's using those mineral lines as a protection zone for the Dragoons, and allowing them to keep the Wraith away from the shuttles, and therefore allowing his Reaver to be effective. And now the Siege Tank gets taken out, and Stork almost manages to mine drag a mine onto the second Siege Tank, and the Siege Tank does get hit by the Spider Mine, and the Siege Tank not being repaired. It's going to get taken out. Stork is tearing through Fantasy's defenses here. Fantasy's defense is being torn to shreds, losing vultures and Siege Tanks all over the place. Brilliance, absolute brilliance by Stork. It has to be said, genius strategy. Fantasy with more reinforcements arriving, trying to save that command center. He's got no anti-air, unfortunately, and Stork finally decides that he's done enough damage and pulls out. But that was great. He completely nullified that Wraith there by waiting for the 2 shuttles and having Dragoons and using those mineral lines. Is just pure genius.
And that's what I love about Stork's Reaver harassment and micro. It's just absurd. I mean, that was genius. You're right. That was a great adaptation. He used the mineral lines to his advantage. He used all the units in the area to his advantage. He used spider mines to his advantage. That was something that you see on micro maps. I mean, UMS maps. I mean, it's just like you drop a unit and you make the spider mine explode. And he took no damage from that on his unit, which is the best part. And he took out a siege tank by doing so. And now he's got 3 shuttles, and he's going to attack on the front line. There are a couple turrets up, but I don't think it's going to matter. There's only 1 tank in the area, and so Stork is going to be pretty free to drop whatever he wants, wherever he wants, with his set of speed shuttles. And this time he's got an observer out on the field as well. There's a Wraith harassing, but it's not going to matter. Spider-Mine's out on the field. He's getting attacked in the meantime on his end of the deal, and he's going to be able to take out that Wraith. He's going to be able to take out that tank. He's going to continue to harass that area. He's got to defend his area, though. He's got to watch out for all the Spider-Mines. Reaver is back out on the field. SCVs can't be transferred because if they do go, they'll go in the path of the Reaver. He loses one of the 2 shuttles, one of the 3 shuttles. He's still got that Reaver. He's got a tank up on the front. There we go now. He's starting to focus on the SCVs. He's maybe even able to take out the command center with proper micro. Takes out a tank that's trying to go take out the Reaver and continuing to just fantastically harass everything. He's getting all the SCVs with his Reavers. 3 SCVs make it out of there. That command center may go down, and he's moving it to the other end of the mineral line, which is actually a bad idea because Stork can get over there without taking any more harassment. Nice spider mine, though. Takes out 1 of the 3. Another one goes down. And, oh, finally it gets cleared out, but the damage has been done. Stork doing a fantastic coordinated attack there, although he's got to worry about the spider mines outside of his base. He's got to start taking care of that. But, man, Stork is putting himself in a great position here, and Fantasy having trouble adapting to Stork's build.
Yeah, and meanwhile Stork has taken his natural expo as well, and I think he's also taken the expo, the main expo at the 9 o'clock position. Stork coming in again with shuttles, and again I'm completely being made to swallow my own I don't know, I won't say something nasty, but swallow my own words at what I said about Stork and his lack of creativity. Fantasy this time is going to be able to do decently against this drop. Again, another Siege Tank goes out. Fantasy trying to micro those Siege Tanks and absorb hits from the Reavers, but unfortunately for Fantasy, Stork has the Dragoons as well, and Fantasy just about manages to hold that defense. I think he lost 2 Siege Tanks, he killed 2 Dragoons, but I think Stork saved his Reaver there in the end. Both players microing furiously. This is some really top-notch StarCraft by both of these players. Fantasy did get that Vulture raid into Stork's main. I'm not sure how many probes he killed, because I think he was busy fighting Dragoons the whole time, and I think he was busy defending his own base that I don't think he really got to micro as much as he would have liked to. But it looks like Fantasy is now heading for a raid at Stork's 9 o'clock expo, and Stork might not have enough to defend this, because Stork is down to only the 1 shuttle. Fantasy with 2 Siege Tanks, 1 badly damaged, as well as 3 or 4 Vultures, and it's just those Photon Cannons, and the 1 Photon Cannon goes down. Now Fantasy is going to be able to swoop in with those Vultures and be able to inflict significant damage. Stork meanwhile comes in with a shuttle. He's going to drop right on top. Fantasy brings a dropship to pick the Siege Tanks up. There's about 8 Vultures in there. Stork meanwhile I think has managed to secure those probes. I think he managed to run those probes up that ramp up to the towards the top left, but that Nexus is probably going to go down. So Fantasy looks like he's going to draw some revenge blood here from Stork. That Nexus coming under heavy fire. Stork drops a Dragoon. The Dragoon gets immediately wiped out by Spider Mines. Reaver Shot goes off, takes out two Vultures. Stork with masses of Dragoons coming in to try and clear out those Vultures. Those Vultures are probably going to be trapped, but I don't think Fantasy is going to mind losing those Vultures as long as he manages to take that Siege Tank down. Meanwhile, Vultures of Fantasy continue to hunt around the middle of the map, looking for some probes to hunt and take down and cut down Stork's reinforcements. And absolute crazy battles raging across this map between these two players, neither giving any quarter. Stork now chasing the dropship with his shuttle.
This is ridiculous, and Stork is doing a great job of reacting, but he has lost 1 of his Nexuses, and Fantasy with a brilliant area to drop, but there is a Reaver to clean that up instantaneously, so 1 shot gets dropped, but that is it. And now Stork just continuing to... He loses the Reaver to her Spider Mine! Very sloppy by Stork. He's focusing somewhere else. Mines all over the place. This game is back and forth, but Stork still has 4 bases, and Fantasy only has 3. So I think that Stork is still in a very strong position here. He's got to better defend his areas. He's got to better defend the new satellite bases that he puts up, and Fantasy is on top of the weaknesses that he spots in Stork. And so Fantasy doing a great job. More cannons going up at that other base, and that's going to help defend, but with the amount of Vultures going over there, it is not going to be enough. He is focusing on the cannons. He's going to be able to take it down. The other cannons are not warped in yet, and they take forever to get warped in, so he's not going to be able to do that. Goon's going through a minefield without an observer. All of them go down. No, 2 go through, so it looks like he's actually going to make it through with most of those units, but he is taking some heavy losses here. He is now down to 3 bases, and I think 2 of which are, if not already mined out, almost mined out, and Fantasy is getting himself back into this game with some brilliant dropship play.
Dropship play and Vulture harass. Stork now heading down Fantasy's front door at the National Expo. Bunch of Zealots coming in. Huge army of Zealots. The bunker goes down. I'm not sure Fantasy has enough to defend this because all of his Vultures were out. Now Stork coming in with a drop. So Stork with a brilliant counterattack, realizing that Fantasy's Vultures were away and there's nothing in front of those Siege Tanks, and Fantasy might lose his National Expo here. Stork dropping at Fantasy's ramp, at the top of Fantasy's ramp. Fantasy's Vultures just about arrive, almost get cut off by the Dragoons. Fantasy manages to hold his ramp just about. Now those Dragoons might get trapped for Stork. This might work out horribly for Stork. Fan clapping excitedly, but then realizing that Stork might be in trouble. Those Dragoons are going to go down. Those Dragoons trapped, and the Siege Tank comes in from behind as well, and Stork is going to lose his entire ground force except for what he can save in those 2 shuttles. So Stork actually went for a finishing maneuver here, but ended up having his own knife thrust into his belly, and that's going to hurt. And now Fantasy is moving out with the massive Terran War Machine on the ground. Stork meanwhile has somehow made the switch to carriers amidst all of that. He's pumping carriers from 2 Stargates, but he's only got the 1 carrier out right now. Fantasy has spotted it. He's got masses of Goliaths, and the girl fans are going crazy, almost as crazy as Rise and myself right now. This is absolutely insane StarCraft. This has to be the best game of StarCraft I've seen in a very long time, guys. The very best. Much better than even Flash versus Firebat Hero in my opinion. And it's not done yet. Fantasy looks like he's also going for a drop at that 11 o'clock position while pushing up in the middle with his massive Terran War Machine. And could Fantasy have turned this around after that brilliant harass by Stork initially? Stork just desperately defending with those Dragoons. He needs to keep those Dragoons alive to fight off and hold off those Goliaths, and he doesn't have them. And Fantasy looks like he might actually be closing this game down, because I'm not sure what Stork has that can stop Fantasy's combined arms force, and Fantasy with the scan sees exactly what Stork has. Fantasy's combined arm force of Siege Tanks and Goliaths and Vultures, and he's got a lot of Goliaths there, and I think what Stork really needs is High Templar, and I don't think he has those.
I think you're right. I think Stork is just forced his way out of this game, dropping a probe with some Zealots. I mean, really, this is going to be it for Stork. He's got nothing to defend this. I think the carrier tech switch was a bad idea. He felt he was way too far ahead, much further than he was, and then Fantasy with his brilliant harasses just took the game. Now, these carriers are not going to be able to turn the tide. You're right, Templar is what is needed here, High Templar specifically, and man, Stork is just not going to be able to. He does not have enough to stop that Terran ball, and GG coming from Stork, so Fantasy able to take this match back, bring it back into his hands, and Stork, it just slips out of his hands. He had that game firmly in his grasp, but Fantasy adapting beyond all of my expectations to what Stork had done to adapt to Fantasy's build, ending in a spectacular dropship play, vulture harass fashion, and Fantasy gets to go over, sign his name on the little card, where Stork is sitting there scratching his head, felt with a feeling of emptiness in his stomach, not sure how this pit of defeat just swallowed him whole.
Oh, this is just one of those moments where you've got your opponent with his back to the wall, at the edge of the cliff, and at the very last moment, as they're falling, they grip your hand and throw you over, and you plummet to your doom while they hang on by the edge of their fingertips. That's what's happened to Stork. He had Fantasy on the ropes, he had him down, he had him knocked out, but Fantasy has just delivered this one big punch, and it's left Stork completely flattened. Absolutely brilliant StarCraft by Fantasy, and I think the very best thing about that game of StarCraft was that both Rise and I have been forced to thoroughly eat our words. Every last one of them. And I think that's what makes it such a great game of StarCraft. Brilliant stuff. Both players, really. I don't think there was I mean, yes, there was a loser. Yes, Stork is now out of the OSL. Fantasy and Type B, of all people, go through to the next round, to the round of 8. But the fans have had a treat. And the real winner, in my opinion, guys, is StarCraft. What a fantastic, fantastic piece of entertainment that was.
I gotta agree with you, and I'd like to point out the fact that now we have Bisu progressing through the MSL for SKT, and we got Fantasy progressing through the OSL. So this is going to be fantastic for both players in their team, and now certainly they have something to look forward to if they can get past the next round, which is going to start getting very exciting, guys. I mean, we're at the round of 16; these guys are moving on to the round of 8. And if Fantasy keeps playing games like this, he may get past silver this year and finally win a gold. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was an insanely GG. And I think that's going to be it for the OSL matches today. Maybe we'll bring you some more MSL, and yeah, you'll have a lot to look forward to in the next week. A lot of good StarCraft games being played, and we're going to try to cover as much as we can. GG, see you in the next commentary.